Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and a really big thank you for everyone joining us here today. This show would not be possible without you and your support. And we have just loved the opportunity to keep a communication channel open to our customers and other shippers, allowing us all to be on the same page about the challenges in the market today. I am your host, Jason Brand, and we've got a special show for you. Now, I know you're going to want to save this and review it for the future, so look out for the email Vanessa's going to send after this show. It'll have a link to the recording, and you're definitely going to want to spread it around because you're going to learn quite a bit. But we mentioned a little over a month back that the goals of our show were changing, and really what we meant by that is we wanted to start to showcase some of our amazing associates and team leaders within our organization. And also these team leaders, they've got a ton of great insight. So we want to hand the microphone over to them, our internal experts, our internal champions, and let them talk about the subjects that they know best to the benefit of all of you, our customers, and the business community at large. So on that note today, we are joined by our very own Jennifer Elsenbrook. Many of you who work with us today or are beginning the process of working with us have hopefully had the chance to meet her, pick her brain, have her kind of analyze your shipping activities and give you some insight as to what she thinks would make sense for you. So Jennifer moved into her new role as our international pricing manager roughly over a year ago, and she did take the reins at a time when our processes were completely strained by the challenges of the market itself. And I mean, Jen can definitely get into more depth on this, but just the process of booking a shipment back then had tripled in the amount of time for labor and just the attention it required. And beyond that, ensuring that our customers' containers would even be loaded and also that they weren't headed straight into a logjam after they were loaded was a full-time job in itself. So to say the very least, our pricing processes needed to be completely overhauled just to ensure we were getting the most competitive rates while not sacrificing service in a time where just one wrong move could leave a customer's container buried for weeks and lead to thousands of dollars of additional fees. So Jen has truly shown the entire company just an incredible amount of grit during this process. She has just tirelessly tried to tackle all of these challenges that were in some situations unsolvable. And she's done this week after week. And literally without her, we wouldn't be able to provide the international services we do for our customers today. So Jen, from all of us here at SCS, thank you so much for all that you've accomplished and that you continue to accomplish to this day.
Oh, thank you, Jason. Appreciate it.
You are welcome. So before I hand the mic over to her, I want a quick introduction of our topic today. So when we are going through the process of putting a show together with one of our internal leaders, Vanessa and I, we generally start off by asking like, hey, what do you think would be the best topic for our audience right now? And with this talk, we had a really fun time in this process. And the topic that we landed on is really based on what Jen is getting asked over and over again by our clients and also our prospects. And it's basically to distill it. It's along the lines of customers saying, hey, I think I can get this cheaper. And it's happening a lot right now. And I mean, I personally am literally seeing emails every morning sent from just agents all over the world and brokers all over the world advertising prices that are just, quite frankly, they're all over the board. Some are ballpark way too high and some are incredibly low. And when I see these incredibly attractive prices, I have to investigate because it's just, I don't understand occasionally how that is possible based on obviously us knowing some of the constraints we're dealing with and some of the constraints of the market and thus and such. So Jen and I talked about this a little bit and this idea of what does your rate really mean? Or what does your rate really equate to? It kind of floated to the surface. And that's kind of what we want to aim to discuss today. What's behind the price? And why does it matter? So I know I already mentioned this a little bit, Jen. I kind of talked about cold emails and such, and I know you want to talk about this too. So why don't you kick it off and talk a little bit more in depth about these cold emails and more?
Yeah, thank you, Jason, Vanessa, for having me. I appreciate it. What a wild time to be in the logistics industry. I've been doing this quite a while, and this is something that I've never seen, right? And every day, another hurdle populates, and we're forced with overcoming it. But that's what we do here. So and right now, like you said, we're dealing with all those emails, right? The volumes are down. right? So, there's people looking for business, and to get that, they're sending out, blank copying everybody in, saying, hey, we got these rates, we have this available, we have space, whatever you need, we can do it. And they're sending quotes, and pricing for that. A lot of times though, number one, you don't really know who you're doing business with when you get an email like that. So you really have to do and have your due diligence and make sure that you're investigating that, because there's a lot of people out there that, will do anything just to get the cargo, and there's some shady business out there. But what we do is, how we get around that is, we work with great partners. We have awesome partnerships, and it's straightforward, right? We pride ourselves on being, honest, and, this is what it is. A lot of times what those emails are containing, it's not straightforward. It's, is everything included? Is that what you're currently moving? So if you're currently moving something, port to door, or, something inland, is that rate the same, even though it's, it says Shanghai to Chicago? Are you really getting that full cost to compare everything with what you're currently getting? For example, a lot of times, they omit the terminal handling or the fuel charges out of those rates to get you to pick up the phone or send an email saying, hey, I have cargo. So a lot of times, until you start asking questions, you don't get all of the details. So, it's really about getting an apples to apples comparison of what service you're currently getting. Things to consider as well, along with just your price. You have, your transit time. What does that look like? Do you have visibility to your cargo? Are you able to pick up a phone or log into a portal and view your cargo and where it is? And do you trust that the person that you're working with is going to call you if there's an issue? Reliability, what kind of service are you getting with that? And then you go to the customer service. I think SCS, we preach about our customer service because, we are willing to do anything for our clients. And that shows in everything that we do. So, and then a lot of it comes down to your priority. Is there something that you need with a shorter transit time, or is the transit time not a priority to you? So we can look at, other options. It might take a little bit longer, but it might be a little bit more cost effective. So those are a lot of the things that, I think a lot of people need to consider when looking at options. Yep. You got a question?
Oh, just real quick, just a comment, because I think that's a great point. I mean, what we generally try to do is understand your shipping frequency, and we try to handle each of your shipments going forward and find the best option for them, right? Yeah. And some people, internally, they're actually trying to book each individual load. And especially when you're getting these emails, if you're looking at that like it's a reputable source to actually book, that can be the biggest fallacy. Because if you've got, let's say, a list of companies that you generally quote out to figure out who's going to win that shipment, and then you get this email and this very attractive price, and hey, it looks like the credentials are meeting what I'm doing, so this would apply to me, correct? And you go down that road. I mean, Jen, I think you said it wonderfully. I mean, some of these little fees that get included add up, and the idea that not all of these things are always included can be kind of challenging at the end when you get the bill in general.
Exactly. I mean, and you look at, all of the hiccups and things that are, like you said earlier, all of the things that are taking longer now, right? So they can publish a rate, but does that mean that you're going to get space with that rate? Are you, with all of the services they're taking out, are they going to be able to service your booking, right? I mean, and a lot of times, to have a specific rate for a specific sailing that, we're able to go to our partners and say, you've got 10 or 20 containers you want to move. We can go to our partners and actually negotiate a better rate for you. Because with that knowledge comes power, and the buying power of having the volume, we're able to do more for you. So, it's just about communication. I think that's very helpful. And, like you said, is the options, so we've got, customers that go ahead and ship regularly. What other things do we need to do, right? You have another question?
I love Anthony got me on this raise the hand feature. I absolutely love it. So I've been just tapping it a bunch. No, it was another thing I was just thinking about when you were talking right there. It's the lowest price shipment isn't always the one that doesn't come with the services as well. So, every week Jen goes through kind of a quick rundown of, hey, who are our top agents we work with in different markets and how are they comparing to the market at whole and things like that. And we've had a couple situations where we are thousands of dollars currently cheaper than what the average is in the market. And we've really taken some of these agent relationships and made sure we're nurturing them, going to visit them in, foreign countries and ensuring that, hey, we're connected very well. So our processes mesh extremely well. So when we're working together, it's a smooth experience for our shippers and things like that. And that is a big difference because, if you look at just, Florida in general, I think there's over 5,500 different brokers. It's a ridiculous number, but how you actually differentiate yourself and how you actually build those relationships and use those to have a more quality process to have a better product, which is shipping. It doesn't always make you more expensive, actually. So that I always found very interesting.
Yeah, for sure. It's being able to, think on the fly, right? Like that's a big, you have a regular shipment and say you're focused on price, but what if something happens production wise and you need to pivot and you need something right away and everything's stuck. We saw it happen. We saw it happen multiple times. And we're still kind of faced in that kind of environment where there's a lot of congestion at the ports and even the inland rail locations. I know Chicago's struggling, and it's not one thing that is going to make it any better. You've got, lack of lift machines, you've got lack of chassis, you've got, carriers that are falling off that, want to get out of the business. You have all sorts of things happening and all of them are making that kind of perfect storm for creating, the congestion, the delays, which add up to, possibly additional charges. Or if you don't have those kinds of relationships that you build and you can say, hey, I want to get this one transloaded and I want to truck it because I need it right now. We have those kinds of relationships, we have those options, we have all sorts of those kinds of things. And, also the knowledge, right? The knowledge should be like, okay, well, Mr. Customer, this rate is, $5,000, but this rate is a little bit more expensive, but you can avoid the congestion or you can avoid the risk of, we're still looking at, a potential strike on the rail workers on the West Coast. And that's scary, and that's why you're going to see those rates drop. And that's why those rates have fallen significantly. Everybody's avoiding the West Coast right now. I feel that the rates to the West Coast out of Asia, at least, they've kind of stabilized over the last week or so. So I think there's a lot less room for those kinds of rates to be falling. But when you talk about Asia to the East Coast and Asia to the Gulf, those rates, everybody's still kind of going into those areas and there's a lot of congestion and a lot of carriers are taking their vessel capacity out of the West Coast and moving it to the East Coast and Gulf ports. So, they're managing the rate fall by managing the capacity. They don't want to see the prices go down as fast as they have, but, with the lack of demand, it's kind of it's a race of where is it going to end up? So, there's a lot of things that kind of go into that. So it's not always about, what's my cheapest rate? It's, do you have trust working with the people that, you're giving your freight to? So I feel like that's a big proponent of, what we offer and what we're able to do. Even when you're talking about, air freight, we have lots of options, air freight as well. We were talking about this and, we have some great minds on our pricing team that are awesome. They love to share ideas. They love having discussions. We have discussions every day. And, how, we talk about, hey, how can we do this better? How can we look at a better rate? A lot of times sending an air freight into a major gateway, it might not be the closest international airport to you, but you're going to get better. Number one, you're going to get better service. You're going to get a better rate. Transit time is going to be better because there's more flights going in and out of that gateway. So you might have a little elevated cost on your trucking charge, but it's way better than, waiting to get it to an airport that, there's not a lot of service. So, there's a lot of things that, we're doing. We're also, partnering. We've got consolidations, big consolidation out of Germany that, we're working on. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So, there's all sorts of solutions that we can help offer. We look for options, and every booking, we look for the best option. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that consolidation program out of Germany is really interesting too, because we've gone through a few partners in the past and, we've gotten decent service, but being able to actually be in more control of the consolidation and then incorporate more of our customers into that solution is huge. I mean, it really changes everything. We've got customers right now who are shipping overweight containers because they think it makes sense for them. Well, in some situations that might make the most sense, but in other situations, if we've got loads coming in daily, let's say, out of it, and unfortunately these don't line up, but let's say out of Germany, you could just have the opportunity to save so much money, and then also be able to schedule out when your product is arriving and have a more granular approach just to your inventory management. And that can have huge implications for you. I mean, we're very excited about this program. Jen has been working with this pretty intensely. It's been very busy, but I'm glad you mentioned that, Jen.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's exciting because, as being in this industry for so long, we're always changing, always looking at what's next, always looking at, hey, when it's not always going to be this way, right? We're always going to be evolving and looking for the better solution. And, the customers' needs change. So, what used to be the status quo, a couple of years ago, even, geez, now I feel like everything's changing so much more rapidly, but, what used to be the status quo, even last week, we might have to reevaluate that. And having that open door and having those conversations with our customers is definitely, helpful in all sorts of kind of relationships. And we deal with partners, and like you said, we deal with a lot of partners all over the world. We have a very, very strict kind of requirement. We want to work with people that, are, obviously financially stable. They offer the top-notch customer service. We can have that trust, right? We want to be able to have that trust and to be honest and say, hey, you know what, that's not going to work for my customer. What's going to work for them? How do we change that? I feel like there's a lot of options, and we are always building those kinds of relationships as well. And that goes down to operations and pricing. I'm dealing with that. But it's a company-wide initiative that we have. So it's a great thing. And regarding the rates, I mean, we have our finger on the heartbeat of what is going on. So I mean, we have, like Jason mentioned, we have several specific lanes. This isn't just like trade lanes. We have obviously the trade lanes that we're looking at, but specific routes that kind of come up unusual, like with certain lanes that into the Gulf, for example, out of Asia. What are we looking at? What does that rate trend look like? So I'm able to track that specific lane and look at, what other partners are providing in that lane and say, hey, listen, this is what we're getting the rate for. And you know what? It's significantly lower than the average. So that just kind of tells me that, when I've got, a rate that we're providing and it's lower than the average rate that is out there on the marketplace, we're doing a good job. And, a lot of the low rates, if you take the low rates out and the high rates out, I mean, you're looking at what's in the middle there. And that's kind of, where you need to be, because those low rates, there is something that is lacking with that rate. Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
So I want to ask you about this because, we have the similar audience for our freight market roundup. And, obviously a lot of these individuals are trying to think, what's going to be happening in the next 6 months? Should I be considering making any major changes? And we talk about this every week as well. It's just, and you just mentioned it. It's getting more and more challenging to make predictions because the market is changing so rapidly. But I just read an article this morning about how there's going to be another 50 blank sailings between now and the end of the year on the West Coast lane. And that's just astonishing. give the group a little bit of an insight as to what you're thinking, because I thought you had a great point this week, Monday, when you were kind of talking about kind of like how rates had almost found the floor almost and kind of bounced off of it.
Yeah, so if you're looking at like US West Coast rates from Asia, you're starting to see that kind of like leveling off. The demand isn't there, right? So I mean, how low can you go essentially? So they're going to start they pull the vessels out. So then, you know, they're going to put those assets to where they can actually be profitable. They're not going to send a ship with, you know, loaded half, you know, with cargo. It doesn't make sense. It's not financially stable. You know, with everything that's going on, you know, including like the bunker surcharges, you've got the fuel surcharge in the US. It's like you said, it's just very unpredictable. And, you know, on top of that, you know, you've got congestion fees as well. You're still seeing that, especially in major gateways like Dallas and Chicago, some areas in Detroit as well. Those are the types of things that, you know, I feel like when way back in the day when fuel surcharge became a thing, right? And they're like, well, how, you know, I always remember this, and it's been so long ago that I can't believe that we're here, but it's never gone away, right? It's just the new normal. So I don't know what to say. You know, how do you predict that? I feel like now is just, it's the new normal. It's one of those things. Okay, well, congestion, if you look at the constant, the workers that you have to do the job, whether that be, you know, drayage or warehousing is really tight right now. We're seeing that. You know, I was at a conference and they said there was less than 0.1% available warehouse space in Savannah.
It's crazy. And they did a whole project when they were trying to, at the beginning of this year, they had, I forget how, it was a ridiculous amount of space that they had essentially started rapidly developing for warehouse space, and it's all full. I mean, oh my gosh.
Yeah. And they say the average amount of warehouse space that is available in, you know, all the United States is about 6%.
Yep.
And in certain areas they're at, you know, low levels like that. So, you know, there's a lot of constraints. But it's like I said, you know, we're here to provide that customer service and, you know, look for those partners that are willing to work with us. And, you know, we're growing as well and trying to get those, you know, those warehouses developed and fill those with freight and whatever options that we can do. So we're very nimble that way, to where we have solutions that might fit your need, and we can always find a way. So I feel like that's one of the best things that, you know, we're able to do. You know, another thing is constantly evolving is just the tech industry. You know, where are we at with, I've done so many demos about, you know, how do you monitor what's the best rate? How do you do that? Like, there's so many services that you can get. They're almost impossible to compare, you know, one-on-one basis. So, you know, I feel like that's coming. It's even coming for like the LTL end of it. So it'll be interesting. Whoops, sorry about the dogs there. But yeah, I feel like it's going to be a great, like, evolve, right? Like, we're going to be able to go online and be like, hey, I need to move my 2 pallets from here to there. Like, who can I give it to? Kind of like an Amazon for freight, right?
We need this too. You know, honestly, what we saw in the pandemic was just, I mean, when you looked at kind of from a logistics provider, our balance sheets got really messy during the pandemic because it was so expensive for us to just move a load. And I mean, that comes from every single angle. We're getting bills that are massively high. We've got tariffs that are massively high, and we're stuck here in the center as kind of a conduit for everything. And then with these bills isn't coming better service. I mean, what was coming was a chance to get on a boat. Like, that is not good enough for somebody paying $15,000 to enter the US and enter the US, you know, not even traverse once you're in the US. And so yeah, I mean, you know, the technology push is so fascinating. Jen, you made such an interesting point too, because we've been developing our technology capabilities for a while now. We've been going through a series of implementations and upgrades of our current software. But one thing that we're learning through this process is it's not necessarily what the technology can do, it's how adopted the technology is. Because if you've got just a bleeding edge technology out there, it has to be adopted by companies that have zero technology and that are operating on Excel files and will not be doing any type of API hookup. So you need to have clever technology with good adoption to be able to provide a good snapshot of what is a good rate, what's a bad rate, and let's make sure we're ensuring good service, and let's get rid of these outliers because they're not actually real. They're kind of skewing the results.
Exactly. I mean, the outliers is a good point, and then we can have you can have a great system that does so many things, but if we're also not taking the time to educate, our customers saying, hey, this is what it can do for you, right? Like there's so many things that it offers. We're not providing enough of that value to, to our customers because, in the end, it's going to benefit them. And it gives that visibility and that clarity to say, hey, listen, this is where we're at. And if there's any problems, we're here to help figure that out for sure. That's the best thing.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it. I love how you said that too, because that is the beauty of it as well. It's taking all of the information we're looking at and making sure that our customers have a real-time insight to what is happening. Here's the exact snapshot at any given period of time, and you can see how we're acting and reacting to these situations. And if you, from your business standpoint, want to be more included, that's a fantastic way. You are now being able to manage us even more. We are experts when it comes to shipping, but at the same time, you're experts when it comes to your business. So you do understand what is, what are your specific needs and how do they differ from the rest of our customers, and how can we work with your specific needs to find the right solution for you, with hopefully improving the service to points that you find acceptable or exceeding acceptability, but also finding the best possible price and options. It can be really fun. I mean, we really love, once we're hooked up, it gets really exciting because the conversations get deeper and just the connection between our companies gets more. That's the fun part of supply chain for sure.
Yeah, it is. And I look forward to what the future has to hold and kind of everything. So, I'm going to knock on wood when I say that, but
yeah. Gosh, I had an article. I got to send it to you, Jen. I had to really take about 20 minutes to meditate over it just to digest it, because I was like, oh, this is shocking. This is a little bit too shocking.
Yeah.
A lot of those. But
sure.
Jen, first of all, can I just say thank you so much? Honestly, I love having you on the show. You need to come on here like once a month and give like the Jen update.
For sure, Jason. Thank you very much. It was great to kind of have a great conversation about, where we are and hopefully like how to get better as we continue on in this crazy world.
For sure. And an interesting year ahead of us. We thought this last year was interesting. Well, next year is going to be interesting in its own unique ways as well.
Exactly.
So, Vanessa, you want to take us through the questions?
Yes. I have 3 here waiting for us. First one, with that close look at every booking you get, what's your quote turnaround? That was one of the questions.
It really depends on, like time zone differences, right? What are we looking at? And it could vary, the complexity. When you start looking at, it depends on if you're just looking at a 40 container from Asia to the US. I mean, that's, pretty straightforward. We can have those turned around within 24 hours. You get a time difference there. So we have to allow for that. And then, for other requests, I mean, we're seeing a lot of complex requests. So, it might be like, hey, I have, 5 containers coming in all over the United States. I need to unload them all and store them for an undetermined amount of time. And then when they need to get delivered, they're all going to different locations and they need white glove service. So like a lot of those types of requests, they can take a lot longer. Or if you're looking at like a break bulk cargo, there might be some certain information that we require. For some vendors actually want pictures of cargo. So it depends on the actual information that, we're looking at and what we need to provide an accurate quote is, because we would like to provide something that's more accurate than, just throwing a number at it.
And I want to add to that real quick. Jen and her team have like made incredible bounds in this area, because back when the pandemic was in full swing, really verifying that price was a shippable price and you could actually get space on that ship took a little while. I mean, as of late, she's been able to really nail down some quotes very, very well. But no, I totally agree. We have been getting a lot of complex or kind of the square trying to go through the circle, and we can make that happen, but it will take a minute. Not a long minute, but a minute.
Right.
Awesome. Question number 2. You mentioned the technology out there. Are you working with any freight pricing technology at the moment?
Yes, we are. So we currently work with Freightos. I'm working on actually expanding the level of the depth and the complexity that we can use that system to. So, that's kind of a constant work in progress. Also just, keeping out an eye for what's new in the market, what can we do better? I feel like this is a very, very fast changing environment. Like I mentioned before, there's a lot of things, a lot of new companies that are starting up, a lot of things that are almost even forward facing to customers. So I feel like there's a lot of things to look into. It's just a matter of, making sure that you're making the best move, because we have quite a few different players in all of that. With integration, we're integrating pretty much all of our systems together. So what does that look like? How complicated is that? Is there something else that we should be considering before we make a switch? But yeah, for sure.
Jen didn't know that her job would require coding, essentially. It's been like, okay, whoa.
It's gonna be everyone now, right?
What system is the master? Oh my gosh.
For sure.
Okay, last but not least, a little off topic. So let's see if Jason can shed some light here. Is the US interested in importing diesel from Brazil?
Oof. Okay, can I just first say I love these questions, but can I also second say I do not have a US government affiliation, so unfortunately I don't have insight into the workings of the Senate and the House and the rest. But oh man. Okay, a great way to figure out what you think we're going to do in this area is look into what politicians are investing in when it comes to stocks and see if anything stands out as far as, energy companies involving diesel, and just kind of follow that path. I've not followed that path, but occasionally Anthony and I, we do a deep dive and we go that route, and it has some exciting insights. And a lot of the times they tend to come true. So keep that in mind. You didn't hear.
We should do a field deep dive one of these days. Yeah, absolutely.
Get your crystal ball out, Jason.
I know it was an anonymous question. So, if you want to send us an email, we'll connect you with the person that, will know to the detail how to answer that question for sure. So thank you so much, Jen, Jason, for your time. Everyone, thank you for joining. Have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.